This podcast is featured on the Gun Rights Radio Network. Podcasting freedom.
Hello and welcome to Shooting the Breeze, episode 32, the formal gun podcast of WaltInPA.com. I am Walt White and I am here with a very late podcast. Episode 32 was supposed to be posted on Tuesday, and I was really bummed out that for the first time in 31 episodes I was late and I wasn't able to get the show produced on time and ready to go. So kind of what happened? Well, I wound up getting sick. Last week I took Thursday, Friday, and Monday off from work. I decided to do some renovations around the house. And if you own an old home or you've ever worked in an old home, when you start ripping down walls and getting behind drywall, you start finding things that you would much rather not find. And you know, a fairly large task becomes an even larger task when you realize you need to fix things along the way. So Thursday and Friday night I wound up putting in really long hours. I think I started working around 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning and I was finishing up around 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening. And both days I was just beat. I wanted no parts of putting together a podcast at the end of the night. Friday night I started feeling a little run down, sore throat. Saturday rolls around and my throat was really sore. I was starting to get congested. And I thought, no, you know, maybe it's just from the dust. You know, I'm wearing a dust mask only part of the time when I'm doing like really dusty, dirty work. You know, the rest of the time I'm breathing in this probably 100-year-old dirt that's been trapped behind walls for, you know, decades. But I was starting to feel run down, so on Saturday I passed on recording the podcast, and I spent a little bit of time outside at the range with some of the guys from Team Custom Gun Finishes, and we did some shooting to get ready for the first match of the season, which was Sunday. And you know, I'm thinking, no, you know, maybe I can record it Saturday night. Saturday night rolls around, not so good, you know, feeling even worse. Sunday morning rolls around bright and early. We went shooting our first USPSA match of the season, and that wound up being a pretty long ordeal. I think I left my house around 7:30 or so, and I got back in time for dinner at about 5:30. And once I was done dinner and relaxed, I was just in no mood to record the podcast. My throat hurt, I was congested, and I got a great case of sunburn, and I had this awesome raccoon look going. At the range I was wearing tinted safety glasses, and I had this pasty white band across my eyes from where the sunglasses were blocking out all the sun, and the rest of my face was just roasted bright red. Amazing that I could manage that type of sunburn in March. But you know, Sunday night I was just not into it. I thought, okay, maybe I'll be recovered by Monday, you know, record the podcast sort of last minute, you know, just find some time and get it done. And it just didn't work out, and I wound up spending Monday most of the day in bed, just run down and sick. So when Tuesday came around and it was normally time to post the podcast, I got kind of bummed out that you know, in all this time, for the first time, a podcast was late. So I'm doing a bit of a makeup show now. I normally record Saturday or Sunday and then post on Tuesday. It's Friday afternoon right now. I'm doing this, what I'm hoping is going to be a relatively quick catch-up show, and then, you know, we'll be rolling as usual again on Tuesday, or at least I'm hoping. So here we are with just a quick little podcast. You know, I say quick little, but they never wind up that way. You know, I'm shooting for no more than 45 minutes. I've got one piece of news, two pieces of featured content, a cigar and drink pairing, which, well, this is the first cigar I've had in about a week, so this one should be interesting. And then I've got a discussion topic that could run a little bit long, but I'm thinking 45 minutes tops. So, what did I want to talk about before we got started? So as I mentioned, I shot my first USPSA match of the season last week on Sunday, and I wound up having a great time. The weather has been beautiful the last couple of days, and it was another painful reminder that I need to pack sunblock. I burn pretty easily, and even in March, I didn't think about it. I wound up going to the range. I got roasted, and I paid for it for the next couple of days. It's going away now, and I'm feeling much better. I'm able to move my face around without, the pain from the burn. But all in all, it was a pretty good match. I did a really lengthy write-up along with video clips of all the stages and things like that on my blog. If you're interested, head over to waltnpa.com and check it out. I think it came in around 4,000 words. What I did was I talked about the stage in general, my stage plan, how everything happened or went down after the buzzer, and then I talked a little bit about scoring and mental mindset and things like that. And being the first match of the season, it taught me quite a bit, and it reminded me of a lot of other things. But I was pretty happy with the result. I did much better than I anticipated when I left. I was expecting to be, in the last chunk of the list, probably dead last, one of the last 5 shooters, but I wound up coming in about 18th out of 32 shooters. Much better than I anticipated based on how I thought I shot at the match. The funniest thing was one of the stages that I thought I tanked, I wound up taking second place on. So it was it was an interesting day at the range. So there's your little bit of a pre-news banter discussion portion. I'm going to roll into the news and we'll get this podcast moving. Well, it is time for the news, and as I said just a few seconds ago, I only have one piece of news this week. Originally I had 2, however the second piece of news was tremendously long, a couple of thousand words, and it was just far longer than I was willing to read on the podcast. So we sort of shuffled it around. I'm going to do that for featured content instead. So the one and only piece of news this episode comes from CBS Baltimore, and it is entitled "Maryland Gun Law Found Unconstitutional." It was published on March 5th. It's probably old news by now, but I'm a week behind, so let's just catch up. Bear with me. So it goes on to say, the Second Amendment right to bear arms is not limited to the home, and Maryland's requirement that residents show a, quote, good and substantial reason, end quote, to get a handgun permit is unconstitutional, according to a federal judge's opinion filed Monday. The right to bear arms has historically been understood to allow for militia membership and hunting, which extends the right beyond the home, U.S. District Judge Benson Everett Legg wrote. States can channel the way residents exercise that right, but because Maryland's goal was to minimize the number of firearms outside homes by limiting the privilege to those who could demonstrate good reason, it had turned into a rationing system, he wrote. A citizen may not be required to offer a good and substantial reason why he should be permitted to exercise his rights, Legg wrote. The right's existence is all the reason he needs. Plaintiff Raymond Woolard obtained a handgun permit after fighting with an intruder in his Hampstead home in 2002, but was denied a renewal in 2009 because he could not show he had been subject to threats occurring beyond his residence. Woolard appealed, but was rejected by the review board, which found he hadn't demonstrated a good and substantial reason to carry a handgun as a reasonable precaution. The suit filed on Woolard's behalf by the Second Amendment Foundation in 2010 claimed that Maryland didn't have a reason to deny the renewal and wrongfully put the burden on Woolard to show he still needed to carry a gun. People have the right to carry a gun for self-defense and don't have to prove that there's a special reason for them to seek the permit, said attorney Alan Gura, who has challenged handgun bans in the District of Columbia and Chicago. We're not against the idea of a permit process, but the licensing system has to acknowledge that there's a right to bear arms. The lawsuit names the state police superintendent and members of the Handgun Permit Review Board. We disagree with this ruling, Assistant Attorney General Matthew Fader said in a statement. In light of the way In light of the very important implications of ruling for public safety, the defendants will be appealing to the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. The defendants will also be seeking a stay of the ruling pending appeal. Jonathan Lowry, Director of Legal Action Project at the Brady Center to Prevent Gun Violence, which assists states and cities in facing gun law challenges, expects the Fourth Circuit to overturn the ruling. The Supreme Court has recognized the right to have guns in homes, but there is no right in public places, Lowry said. What Maryland does is reasonable. It allows law enforcement to make judgment based on substantial reasons why someone needs to carry a loaded gun in public. That's not rationing and certainly not unconstitutional. I would disagree on both, but as a little sidebar there, but Gura disagrees. Noting that many states require gun permits, but 6 states, including Maryland, issue permits on a discretionary basis. He'd like to see Maryland develop a licensing system that is objective and straightforward. The suit is one of several federal suits the Foundation is bringing across the nation, but it is the first time the Foundation has had success before reaching the appeals level, according to the Foundation founder and Executive Vice President Alan Gottlieb. Momentum is moving in our direction, he said. Rep. Roscoe Bartlett, a Western Maryland Republican who has introduced a bill to protect the rights... Oh no, page is reloading all by itself. I hate when it does that. Okay. Maryland Republican who has introduced a bill to protect the right to obtain a firearm for self-defense or to protect one's home or family applauded the ruling. As Judge Legg correctly ruled, the burden should be on the government to prove that an American is unfit to exercise his constitutional right, he said. So, really good news for Maryland. I'm glad that things worked out the way they did, and that the burden of proof, so to speak, is on the state rather than the individual to determine whether or not they can or cannot carry a weapon. It's kind of deceiving. They make note that all but 6 or 8 states have a shall issue system set up, and Maryland is one of those may issue states. Here in Pennsylvania, we're a shall issue state. However, there's a clause that allows the sheriff, I believe it's the sheriff, to determine that you're unfit to carry. I forget what it is or what it's called, but we have a serious problem with that in Philadelphia. All of the license to carry firearm permits in Philadelphia go through the sheriff's office downtown, and they make it very difficult. I've heard of people having to go in and do interviews so that the sheriff can determine whether or not they're good enough, I guess, to carry a gun. And a lot of times they ask for why do you need, or can you show cause, those sorts of things. So while it doesn't seem to be abused anywhere but Philadelphia in Pennsylvania, it's kind of misleading. We are a shall issue state, but there have been numerous instances, especially in Philadelphia, where the sheriff will deem the applicant unfit to carry based on moral character or moral fiber and nothing else. So, kind of an interesting report. I'm really glad to see that Maryland is going in this direction. Hopefully that that Court of Appeals doesn't overturn it, and things sort of move in a pro-gun direction. Well, as I said in the news segment, I had a fairly lengthy news piece that was just too long for me to read, so I was turning it into a featured discussion piece. Or a featured content piece, and that's what I want to talk about now. This comes from Philadelphia Weekly, and I've got to admit, as soon as I saw Philadelphia anything in the publication's headline, I was gearing up for a rise in blood pressure, because it's not typically when you see anything from Philadelphia, anything, whether it's Inquirer or Daily News or anything like that, it's typically anti-gun, and this was really refreshing to read. It's very neutral. It takes a couple of different standpoints. It is entitled, "Mayor Nutter's Crackdown on Lost or Stolen Guns Comes Under Heavy Fire." And the reporter, which is Michael Allen Goldberg, who published this article on March 6th, takes a couple of different viewpoints. This is about 4 pages long, and he looks at this issue from a couple of different standpoints. He conducts interview with people that are on different sides of the fence and looking at this from a different perspective. As I said, it's about 4 pages long, a couple of thousand words, and it's just very refreshing to see something so, I don't know, unbiased, so to speak, where he's not, you know, waving his hand around screaming, you know, "Go pro gun," and at the same time he's not throwing mud and screaming for bans and blood in the street kind of a thing as an anti-gunner. So I was really happy with it. The whole thing on this is that the mayor of Philadelphia is taking heat for making up his own laws as he sees fit in regards to firearms. So what's happening is, in Philadelphia, they've decided that they're going to institute a law that says if you do not report your gun lost or stolen within 24 hours of notification, or within 24 hours of discovering said firearm being lost or stolen, you're committing a crime. You can be arrested and fined and everything else. And the whole thought process behind this is it's going to curb straw purchases. So, you know, if there's any illegal gun running going on in the city, it's going to stop those people from going into a gun store with a clean record, buying guns, and then turning around and selling them. And then when the gun is traced back to them in the first place, it stops them from saying, "Oh, it was stolen." Well, that doesn't make any sense. So there's a lost or stolen ordinance put in place. The police track the gun back to the straw purchaser. They say the gun that you purchased was found at the scene of a crime. You know, it's behind the murders of, you know, X, Y, and Z. These people were all killed through the use of this firearm. You're responsible. The straw purchaser says, "Oh, it must have been stolen, or it was stolen." Well, the police before would have to leave him be if he said something along the lines of, "Oh, it was stolen, I just didn't report it." Well, you know, under this new law, all this guy has to say now is, "Oh, I didn't know it was stolen," or, you know, "Let me go check. I have it," and then, oops, it's gone. So all the straw purchaser has to do now under this set of laws is simply tell the police officer that he wasn't aware, or she wasn't aware, that the gun was stolen or missing. And, "Okay, officer, while you're here, would you kindly take a lost or stolen firearm report for me, since I've just discovered that my gun is missing?" So I really don't see this whole thing doing anything to curb straw purchases or anything like that. It talks about police using this type of thing as leverage to get confessions, and this is why this is important. And, you know, I kind of shook my head at that. But what it all boils down to is there's a House bill coming up for a vote, and I don't remember what the numbers are, but basically it's similar to what Florida has, in that the law will state that there are repercussions for passing an ordinance that doesn't follow the state preemption law. So if the city of Philadelphia passes this law, they are then they're setting themselves up for a civil suit by anyone that wishes to sue them. For instance, the NRA or the Second Amendment Foundation, or anyone like that, can turn around and sue the city for passing this law in violation of state preemption because this bill permits it. And then I believe it's something like 3 times damages plus attorney fees. So the city would wind up shelling out a whole bunch of money, or any municipality or city or town would wind up shelling out money for breaking the law. In which, as it stands now, they can break the law. If someone decides to fight it and take it to court, there's no repercussions. It was, "Oop, my bad," and it's a tiny little slap on the wrist, and that's the end of it. With this bill passing, if it passes, they're not. The speculation is that it will pass the House, but it won't pass the Senate. Or it'll pass the Senate, but not the House. I don't remember how it works, but they're saying that if it passes, it will force people to sort of get in line. I mean, it's tax dollars that wind up paying for these attorney fees and damages and things like that. But From what I understand, this is sort of a small step in getting a system set up like Florida, where the people that passed it are liable. It's not just taxpayer money. It comes down to the people that passed the bill, and it's not just the township or the taxpayer that has to foot the bill. So it's a really interesting read. It's well worth reading. It's kind of lengthy, but again, just really good stuff and definitely worth checking out. Well, the second piece of featured content I have, second and last for this episode, is something I came across in the Pennsylvania Firearm Owners Association forum. It was a thread entitled, "Wow, this is going to get someone killed." With a catchy headline like that, I had to click through and check it out. And there's an image from what looks like a flyer or just a sales pamphlet. And I read it and I thought, well, this is amazing. I can't believe that someone would actually purchase this. But what it is an M906 pocket pistol 3-piece set. The sales copy that goes along with this is what I'm going to read for you. Not every dangerous encounter is resolved with a firearm. Security guard scenario. I was working a security detail at a big-name rock concert when a Hummer pulled up with a bunch of guys obviously under the influence. They demanded that I raise the gate and let them into the parking area. When I asked to see their concert tickets, I was met with a litany of curses and threats. I knew from past experience that this could escalate to a nasty confrontation. Rather than draw my service revolver, I drew my blank firing pocket pistol, and the taunts turned to shouts. And they were going to the taunts turned to shouts that they were going to disarm me and shove the gun up my butt. The ball was now in my court, so I raised my arm and fired around into the sky. There was a deafening silence when the punks heard the loud report and saw the muzzle flash. I took advantage of the look of fear on their faces and aimed at the driver. I told them to get their asses out of my sight. His face turned pale, and the next sound I heard was the tire squealing and burning rubber as he did a 180 and sped off. Yes, you're right. I could have drawn my live-fire revolver and gone down the road of an inquiry and official investigation. Did I make the right decision in this scenario? When the moment of truth arrived, I'm sure I did. Of course, the rule of common sense does apply, that they be fired only in life-threatening situations. The choice is yours. Be the victor or be the victim. Now, these guns, a 3-piece set, looks like it costs $144. A nylon holster for your blank firing pistol is $28. And 9mm ammo is $15 a box for a box of 50. You can also get a fake suppressor for the end of your pocket pistol for an additional $29. I couldn't believe this was actually real, so I did a little research, and sure enough, you can actually purchase these things. They're selling them as these life-saving tools. And when you go to the Max Armory website where I found these, you can sort of build your purchase. You can add a fake suppressor for $29. You can add extra rounds of blanks. Add extra magazines at about $19 a piece. And it's just incredible. They have video of these things firing, so there is a muzzle flash, there is a loud report, but it's one of those things where you can't be serious. These things are to be used in life-threatening situations. My life is threatening. Why would I want to be waving around a flashy noisemaker? And I just, I guess this kind of goes along the lines of a warning shot. Only, there is no projectile to potentially go somewhere that it shouldn't. But, in a scenario where things are going to get really bad, and you've got a number of individuals that are looking to beat you up, and then they threaten to take your gun away after you pull it out, I would become a little concerned. I mean, this guy pulls out a gun. Unbeknownst to them, it was a blank firing pistol, but they're obviously not afraid of it, and there are taunts and threats, and they're one step away from attacking the guy physically, and it's amazing. Something like this, I could certainly see someone getting killed over. I mean, okay, let's say the scenario went a little bit different. He holds the gun up in the air and he starts firing off blanks. that only makes the crowd angry. You know, it makes the three people angry. Now what? Let's say they start advancing towards you. What are you going to do? Point the blank firing gun and like flash them to death with the muzzle flash? Or what if the guy in the driver's seat stepped on the gas and ran you over, or started, you know, barreling towards you in the Hummer? I mean, where is the defense? It's just I don't know, sort of a shock and awe device that does nothing to save your life. You know, it's, you know, if you're going to escalate the situation to the point where you're drawing a gun, it's really bad, and you have to really be considering shooting the individual that's about to do you harm. Pulling this thing, you know, it may end a handful of confrontations, but you know, I think that this has the potential to be very dangerous for the person holding the gun, and not just the person on the business end. So, I don't know, just an interesting, I can't believe I just saw that item up for sale. It's certainly not the first item I've seen like this, and it won't be the last, but it definitely caught my attention, especially with all the fake doodads that go on it. Well, it is time for the cigar and drink pairing of the episode. I want to try to keep this relatively short for two reasons. One, this is the first cigar that I've had in a week, and my taste buds are a little weird, especially because I still have a little bit of congestion. And two, the cigars always seem best when you've built up just a little bit of a tolerance to them. You know, when you smoke that first cigar after an extended period of not smoking cigars, especially with being sick, they taste kind of funky. You know, your palate is sensitive and you pick up interesting flavors and all, but they always sort of have like some funkiness around the edges that typically goes away, you know, when you've had a cigar every couple of days or things like that. So I don't want to spend a tremendous amount of time on the cigar, especially because it's one that I've covered before, just a different size. This is the EP Carrillo New Wave in a Corona size. It's the first time that I've had this particular size, and I picked it up because I've been really short on time as of late, and I'm running out of smaller cigars. The Corona is probably a 46 by 5 or so, and I'm pairing it up with a cup of coffee. It's Dunkin' Donuts, in case you were curious. The cigar is much like its bigger sizes in the event that it's very flavorful. It's mild to medium bodied. It's got a very nice, rich Connecticut flavor that you get out of the wrapper. There's some woody flavors. There's a little bit of a sweetness to it. It's got a little bit of a peppery component to it. Sort of got like a wood smoke, charry kind of a taste, and it's got a little funkiness around the edges, which again is probably because it's the first cigar that I've had in a week, and I'm just getting over being sick. So there is your cigar and drink pairing of the episode. If you're interested in trying the EP Carrillo New Wave, I would suggest picking up the phone and calling my preferred retailer, which is Buckhead Cigar in Atlanta, Georgia. Mike's phone number is 404-844-0400. If you're interested in seeing the newer products that Mike has available, you can head over to askthecigarguys.com, where most of the new stuff that he has sort of on sale is listed. I say on sale because it's sort of there for a little while, and as new product comes in, stuff from the bottom of the list drops off. So I always think of it as stuff that Mike has on sale at this given time. So if you're interested in looking up pricing for these cigars, head over to askthecigarguys.com. If you just want to chat it up with Mike and sort of feel him out as a potential retailer, he is on Twitter as @BuckheadCigar. Mike is also on Facebook and Google Plus as Buckhead Cigar. So not only would you be supporting a fellow cigar guy by ordering from Mike, but Mike is also a fellow gun guy as well. So if you're interested in trying these cigars, get them from Buckhead Cigar. Well, for the discussion topic this episode, I want to talk about something that I saw in a press release that I thought was tremendously interesting. So interesting, in fact, that after I read the press release, I started looking up on the manufacturer's website, seeing what options were available. The press release I came by through Twitter. I believe it was from the Shooting Wire, and it was a press notice that that Jesse Harrison Duff, which is formerly Jesse Abbott, I believe, has signed with Taurus for a competitive shooting team. Now, under normal circumstances, I normally just kind of gloss over press releases, especially in the cigar world. With Stogie Review, we get just inundated with press releases. They come constantly, and there's nothing, very rarely does one contain information that's genuinely interesting to me. So generally, I just sort of gloss over them and don't pay a whole lot of attention. This one, however, it really got me interested because I wasn't aware that Taurus even had a competitive shooting team. As I looked into this a little bit further, I realized that Taurus never had a competitive shooting team, and this is something new for them. There's a new, I believe, president and CEO of Taurus who is changing the direction of the company, which plays more of an interesting role in quality control. Because up until, I don't know, a few months ago, when I was looking at different pocket pistols, and even before that, when I was looking at range guns and just a variety of things, when I asked about Taurus, there was usually a 50-50 split. On one side, you had people that were saying that it was a great company, they made a very reliable product at a very affordable price, and they had never had any problems with their products. On the other side of the line, I had people telling me that Taurus product was garbage. They had virtually or essentially lemon products where the gun didn't work. They'd sent it back to the factory on multiple occasions to get this issue resolved, and every time it came back, the gun was less broken than it was, but the gun didn't function properly. I've heard stories of constantly needing to use that lifetime warranty, sending things back to get them fixed, revolvers being out of sync and shaving bullets and just causing all sorts of havoc. And because of this 50-50 split, I was never comfortable in buying a Taurus as a self-defense weapon. I always went with the bigger name brands with a better reputation for building quality products. And when it came to fun guns, range stuff, I was always kind of on the fence. I didn't want to chance it and buy a Taurus product and then have it break or have it not function properly or it not be reliable. And as a result, I've always kind of shied away from them, but I've always been interesting. I mean, the price point is very appealing. The really interesting thing about Taurus picking up Jesse Harrison Duff as a sponsored shooter is that it takes Taurus in another direction. From what I understand, they don't have a shooting team until recently, and this is going to put them in the competitive shooting light. It means that more eyes are going to be on the company. A different set or a different type of shooter is going to be looking at the product. And it made me wonder immediately as soon as I saw this is, what does Taurus offer me as a USPSA production shooter? Do they even have anything? So I headed over to the website and I started looking around, and it turns out that they do have something that I would look at for USPSA production, or IDPA stock service pistol, which is the 24/7 G2 full-size 9mm model. It's a polymer frame. It breaks down like a Glock, where it has the two tabs on the forward section of the frame in front of the trigger. You pull down, it looks like you rack the slide, and it'll pop off. I'm not crazy about the safety lever or the thumb safety that's on it. And aside from that, it looks like an easily managed pistol. But I started looking at do they make holsters for this? They do. Can I get mag pouches? And sure enough, you can. You can get like universal 9 and 40 double stack mag pouches, universal kind of a thing, to work with it. So just looking at what's listed on the website, it is a viable option in the competitive shooting world. So, and the most appealing part is this gun retails for like $366 on Buds. So someone that's sort of on the fence about getting into competitive shooting, or they didn't want to invest the $500 plus equipment on a Glock or an M&P or an XD for production division or SSP, now have a moderately priced alternative. Now, the thing to watch at this point is what does Taurus do with this promotion? Or not so much promotion, but I guess promotion is the best word for it. You know, they're going to be in front of eyes of more shooters. So I think this can I don't want to say make or break them, but competitive shooting is hard on equipment. You know, I don't want to say, or I don't want to come off as, you know, like you know, the sport I compete in is tough and hard on equipment. Excuse me. But it genuinely is. Even training courses are hard on equipment. Magazines have a tendency to get dropped on a variety of surfaces. Sometimes they get kicked and stepped on, and you know, if anything is going to break, you know, taking it to a match is a good indication of seeing just how durable it is. So if you start seeing Tauruses show up at matches and seeing them break constantly because they're going to be under heavy stress, or show up at training classes or training courses and start to break, you know, more eyes are going to be on them. And I'm curious about what this does for the publicity of Taurus. You know, they're getting involved in a sport that is hard on equipment and guns. So if people that are going to the range, you know, once, twice, three times, couple times a month to just plink with their Taurus items are having trouble with them, you know, what is that going to say about the product when if it shows up at a competitive shooting match and it gets ran hard and it breaks and doesn't work, or you know, something just goes catastrophically wrong? There's a chance for that to happen with any manufacturer. However, you know, Taurus is kind of going into this, in my mind, as already having a poor reputation. So what does this mean for the company? Now, I mentioned that there's a new president and CEO. And the interesting thing there is that, from what I understand, this individual wants to promote the company in this manner with competitive shooting, and they want to get into this arena. And I also read a little bit that the direction that this new CEO is taking the company, his intentions are to increase quality control and make a better overall product without driving the price up. So if he succeeds in taking away that less than ideal reputation, and he replaces it with you know, moderately priced firearms that just work, I think that this could be huge for Taurus. You know, they can garner a reputation for being a reliable product that stands up to, you know, an abusive environment such as competitive shooting or training classes. And you know, I think this will bolster the company's image if it's done properly, or you know, if they can produce products that work. Now, from what I understand, Jesse Harrison Duff is primarily a USPSA, I believe, open and limited shooter, which was kind of curious to me as to, you know, what were the options for production division. So I believe she's shooting the speculation is she will wind up shooting an STI frame with or an STI gun with Taurus roll marked on the slide. I'd be curious to see how that works. Several other companies do that. So, you know, it's not out of the realm of possibility. But I would love to see her shoot, you know, and obviously whatever she shoots or whatever Team Taurus shoots isn't going to be right off the production line. It's going to be specially tuned, and you know, more attention to detail is going to be into it, so that it is, you know, it holds up to the spotlight that they're shining on it with a shooting team. But all in all, I think this is great for both competitive shooters and everyone else, because it's going to put a strain on the company's firearms in terms of durability and things like that, and reliability. And I'm really excited to see where it goes. I was kind of excited in telling a friend about this recently, and he kind of looks at me funny and goes, "Are you actually considering going out and buying a Taurus, you know, to shoot with?" Well, excuse me. No, I'm not going to go out and replace my USPSA production gun. And chances of me going out and buying a Taurus 24/7 G2 are really, really slim. I would love to shoot one for a couple of months, or find a friend that had one and sort of put a whole bunch of rounds through it to see how it fared, and maybe take it to a match or two to see how it shoots and see how it performs. But I'm really excited about this because I think it is definitely has the potential to introduce or draw in new people into the competitive shooting scene. And with a moderately priced gun that performs and functions, I'm excited about it. I want to see this do well. I want to see Taurus come out with a shooting team. I want to see someone do really well in the production division, in the SSP division, and I want to see it take off, because I want there to be a moderately priced gun out there that people can shoot and have fun with and pick up without concern of it breaking or not working properly. And again, this is all based off of my preconceived notions of Taurus. I have very, very little experience with the company and their firearms. It's all based off of what I've heard from a variety of people and a variety of sources. But all in all, I'm pretty excited about this, and I really do hope they do well. I want to see them succeed in this. Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Shooting the Breeze, the formal gun podcast of WaltInPA.com. I want to thank you for watching, downloading, listening, subscribing, all that good stuff. And just let you know that I have a blog out there. It is WaltInPA.com. I post a variety of things, mostly gun-related stuff, USPSA match videos, stage designs, things like that. Just general gun topics. There's a contact form on my blog. If you want to send me an email, ask a question, or have me talk about something, you can either use that contact form, or you can email me directly at walt@waltinpa.com. I'm also on Facebook and Google Plus as Walt White. I'm on Twitter as @WaltW. I also have a subsection on the Gun Rights Radio Network forum for Shooting the Breeze, so if you want to get in touch with me there, there's just a variety of ways for you to get in touch with me. So if you feel so inclined, drop me a line. We'll talk a little bit, about something I said on the show, something you would like me to talk about on the show, post ideas for the blog, discussion topics for the podcast, just a variety of things. So get in touch with me, visit my blog, find me on Facebook, WaltInPA, like my Facebook page, and tell your friends to listen to my podcast. I could use a few more listens. I've sort of plateaued. I'd like to see another bump in listeners. But again, thank you for watching, downloading, listening, subscribing, all that good stuff, and I will catch you later.
You can hear Gun Rights Radio Network on Stitcher Smart Radio. Stitcher allows you to listen to your favorite shows directly from your iPhone, Android phone, BlackBerry, or Palm phones, on demand and on the go. Don't have Stitcher? Download it for free today at Stitcher.com or in the App Stores. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio. Gun Rights Radio Network shows can be found under Sources.